Welcome to B2B Marketers on a Mission, a podcast for B2B marketers that helps you to question the conventional, think differently, disrupt your industry, and take your marketing to new heights. Each week, we talk to B2B marketing experts who share inspirational stories, discuss their thoughts on trending topics, and provide useful marketing tips and recommendations. And now, here's your host and co-founder of Einblick Consulting, Christian Klepp. All right, folks, welcome to this episode of the B2B Marketers on a Mission podcast, where you get your weekly dose of B2B marketing insights. I'm your host, Christian Klepp, and today I'm joined by someone on a mission to help companies achieve shorter sales cycles through customer success stories. So coming to us from Raleigh, North Carolina, Mr. Alexander Ferguson. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you so much, Christian. Glad to be on.
Great to be connected, Alexander. And I love how we started having these conversations, obviously also about your area of expertise, but we started talking about Lord of the Rings, Star Wars,
epic stories,
the big stories, the most frequently misquoted Star Wars quotes, and so on and so forth. But let's get right into it, man, because this is going to be a great conversation.
Hey, absolutely. I'm excited, man. The stories are the best place to focus on, and video. Come on.
Absolutely. On that note, you are clearly an expert when it comes to videos. And, for this conversation, let's focus on how to leverage videos for both B2B marketing and sales processes. So from your experience, how do you think videos can help both B2B marketing and sales teams to break through that noise and increase their chances of success?
I'm still surprised today when I have to convince marketers or sales folks on the power of video. I assume it's just a matter of fact, but that's usually the curse of knowledge because I'm in it every day. If you're out there and you know it already, great, we're buddies. But for those that need a quick refresher, I usually have three handy stats that I pull out all the time. 72% of customers say they would much rather learn about a product or service from a video. And even though we, as the marketer salesperson, may not enjoy watching video all the time, your customers probably do. 3/4 out of your customers are those type of folks. In addition, though, 95% of a message is retained by watching a video, compared to usually only 10% when you're just reading text. The amount of information, if you really want them to remember what your product or service is about and why it can help them, then video is that vehicle for it. But the biggest one that I get really excited about and talking about, we were discussing Lord of the Rings and Star Wars and why those epic stories work is because it pulls your emotion in. It gets you emotionally connected to the character, to what's happening. And that's where video beats text images by itself. And a lot of times we're making decisions when we buy certain things because of our own emotions. And in sales, I know, I'm sure we've all been trained on that we don't always use our logical part of our brain. So if you can connect and it's fascinating with the voice, there's studies been done. It actually bypasses and gets directly into the motion part of your brain as you hear the emotion in someone, or you see their facial reactions. If you can get your customers on camera or your team on camera, they connect with you in a real human way. So there's so much power when it comes to using video in marketing and sales.
I can totally tell how much power there is just by the way that you deliver that. It's just so much emotion there. No, but those are some really incredible stats. Let me see if I got this right. So you said you brought up the 72% of customers who want to learn through video, and that's a pretty powerful statistic, right? The other one, which I want to pick your brain a little bit, because you brought up the topic of emotion, right? Mm-hmm. And it is starting to change in B2B, and I think videos are no exception. But people don't normally associate anything that has to do with B2B with emotion, right?
And that's so annoying. B2B shouldn't be boring and emotionless. We're still human beings, even though we're marketing to another business. People are still the ones behind it that we're interacting with.
Absolutely. All right. So yeah, this next question, you've probably seen them all, but just top line, give us some of the most common mistakes that B2B marketers make when it comes to using videos and what can be done to address these.
I heard a stat recently at a Product Marketing Alliance Summit meeting, an event that I went to. 70% of content goes unused. 70%.
Wow.
And that just struck me like, what? Hold on a sec. Is that really true? And where they kind of dove into it, and I found fascinating, is it's the fact that there's no context for the rest of the organization and team. Talk about like sales enablement content. There's not the right context for them to know how, when, where that piece of marketing video or other type of content can be used. And I think that's a missing piece a lot of the times. Like for sales teams, when marketing creates a great video, we deal a lot with video testimonials and customer videos. It's like, what you need to know at the right time, right place. Okay, this is the story I need for this particular customer, or in this particular marketing funnel, we're going to need this type of story or this social media campaign, et cetera. So the more context you can give to your campaigns just dramatically reduces that percentage that goes unused. That would probably be one of the biggest ones. The second one I see a lot is folks not optimizing their video for social media platform. They'll create a video and then they'll throw it up on their website, and then they'll like, well, it's supposed to social media haphazardly without maybe realizing it's haphazard. Each platform, I may be preaching to the choir here for those marketers out there. Each platform has its own unique characteristics, et cetera. And we've been doing a lot of testing. I'm happy to share more in our conversation of what works and what doesn't. But that's just probably the missed opportunities. Like, we created a video, we put it online, nobody consumed it, nobody watched it. Yeah. Did you drive traffic to it? And did you optimize it for the right platform?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. Wow, those 70%, that was a shocking statistics. There are probably a collection of factors that are the cause of that, right? But from your experience, what do you think they are? Is it a lack of understanding of who the target audience is? Most probably. What topics are not just interesting but relevant to them? Like, why should they care about this video? Well, what's in it for them, right? So answering those questions. But your thoughts?
Yeah, it's definitely the right time and getting the right message, the right time, the right place for that particular customer, whether it's in marketing or sales. And it's it's difficult to know that off the top of your head. So it's like, it's nice when you create the content, you've already given the right labels and context and taxonomy, I think that's the right word, to whatever content you create. It takes a little bit more effort at the beginning. So when you create your content, you have to add that to it. But then it means, talk about like evergreen, you're like, all right, I know I have this content somewhere for this marketing campaign or for this customer and my sales follow-ups, but I have no idea where it is or how to find it. And that's where I think a lot gets unused and misses that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I want to go back to something else that you said. And I'm curious, I'm sure the audience will be curious about this, but what have you seen on social media platforms in terms of video that works and does not work?
I would say the first thing that comes to my mind is authenticity. It really is. If it feels not marketing-ish, if it just feels authentic and real, we're in an age of TikTok right now, craze. And I even as a video person, I don't love TikTok. I don't really get on it much, but I need to. I'm understanding, I'm digging into it. And it's kind of proliferating the rest of our lives, even before TikTok with Instagram, et cetera. People are consume and want to see real people and not too polished. And as we're a video, we create videos, we ride that balance of, we want it to look good, especially in the B2B world. You want it to be polished, you want it to be on brand, but you can get so far. I saw a quote and a comment from Dave Gerhardt, who talks about like, why does all of these ad marketing content look so on brand? It needs to fit into where the audience is. If you're using LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook, the closer you can get to just seem or actually is organic content that you're just connecting as a person to another person, I think dramatically increases then that type of social video and other content to work better.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. especially, with regards to like the video looking too polished. I mean, like you can probably tell if somebody's reading reading some text, right? Or even the text itself, right? If it sounds too, well, mechanical, or it's too like, okay, it's like corporate talk, right? Dropping a lot of those dropping a lot of that jargon that I guess again it goes back to who your target audience is, right? So if you're targeting like a specific group of like engineers, for example, then maybe it's fine to use that type of jargon, right?
I've seen really great videos that have been posted, whether it's YouTube or LinkedIn, and it's either just like a screen recording, and then you see a little bit their face in there, and they're just talking, and they're just sharing value. They're adding value, and that's probably the biggest. Is what's the focus of your content or video? Is it, let me tell you all about me, or is it, let me talk about you and your problem and how I've seen it being solved, how we've been solving it, and how someone else has been solving it? And then that's the type of content in the B2B world that performs much better.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Talk to us about a recent challenge, just one, that you and your team have managed to solve for client.
Yeah. One of our customers, they came to us and they really needed a large library fast of customer stories. And so we were able to build up a library of about 18 different customer stories. But the biggest thing they were trying to do is increase but rather boost their sales cycle, because there's a problem. It's like we wanted to reduce the time it takes for a customer to say yes and sign up and start taking the trial, et cetera. So they started tracking some statistics. The challenge is like getting those stories in the right place, the right time. And that kind of goes back to the context piece. So they built out effectively a customer stories page, but it was a library of all these videos. But the big thing that they did, I found fascinating, and we were talking through it, is even putting context on those pages of, all right, this is the industry that this particular customer is in. This is how they were using the product. And what they did is they then started implementing this into automatic like email follow-ups that would happen, both their sales team would do or in their marketing campaigns. And they tracked that like 71% of the opportunities were influenced because they were going to these pages. They were tracking. I think they used HubSpot to see those engagements. But the fascinating statistic was 96% of customers were influenced, meaning almost just shy of 4% of the entire 100% of your customers, they checked them out. They went and saw them. And so that's what I found fascinating, is that most customers, each of us, we want that validation. We were like, all right, let me just check something out. And it's how quickly can you build up this library of validation that you say, oh, this is a person just like me. They're covering a similar challenge and they're executing it how I want to do it. So it's giving, again, that context for your customer to see these different stories, and which then leads to them saying, all right, I'm ready. Let me hit buy.
Yeah, those are some pretty incredible results and statistics. And yes, like definitely HubSpot is one of many platforms where you can track that kind of engagement easily, right?
Yes, yeah. And when we talk about later, I can show you all about other tech stacks for content.
Yeah. But, don't you worry, we are going to get to that. We are going to get to that conversation sooner rather than later. But yeah, just building on a little bit further, what you said earlier on in the conversation. Talk to us about why it's important to have a video strategy, right? So why should this part of the process not be avoided or ignored or skipped?
Yeah, well, video. Yeah, video. Well, it's funny when we talk about video strategy, and I've heard that comment come up, was like, either if it's from the CEO or some other VP, or they're like, what's our video strategy? And it's okay, yeah, let's do more video. That's our strategy. Do more video. Like, hold on, what? Video is a tool in your strategy. And I mean, as a video person, I've always loved to say, no, video is its whole own strategy. You need to have all this just focused on video. Video is a tool inside of your entire strategy. It's a powerful conversion tool. So really, when you're looking at your strategy, your overall marketing or your sales funnel and figuring, okay, how do we increase conversions? How do we increase trust? How do we reduce the sales cycle? You need to start looking, okay, where am I inserting video at each of those different stages? Because it dramatically can increase those conversions and boosting that sales cycle. If you're using it, if you're using it well, and I hate for people to say, we just need a video, put it on the homepage and that'll magically do something. I mean, yes, putting a video on your homepage will do something, but you just need to know why is it there, why, and understanding it throughout the funnel. So that's probably the biggest thing when I hear strategy and video. It's like doing more videos. That's not a strategy.
It's not? Really?
I mean, you should. We all should be making more video, but yeah, fitting it into it's the rest of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's part of the it's a component in the overall plan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that I've always heard people say, when we were discussing video is like, yeah, definitely we should put it there because it's raising awareness. It's like, okay, fine, all right, but is it going to do anything else beyond that? So it goes back. It goes back to a conversation I was having yesterday. I love using this French word because it sounds so fancy. But what's the raison d'être, right? Ooh. What is the reason for being? Like, why is this video here?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What are you hoping to achieve by putting that out there?
Yeah. Right? If you want, I can share another, kind of goes back to the recent challenge. Mm-hmm. This is more not for a customer, for ourselves, and talk about video strategy. Yeah. We needed more consistent SQLs, right? So we needed more in the pipeline. We needed more calls coming in, and we had done an ebook. It was a downloadable report that we launched last year, and it worked really well. It was good, but it's like it ended up, it only has the shelf life of promoting that, and we putting an ad campaign, and then it started to taper off. And the idea of having to create a new ebook like every month or a couple of months is like, that's a lot of effort and time. And is that really, how do you create something that people are like, oh my gosh, I need to download this? That's where I was starting looking at, okay, I do want to add more video. That's not the strategy, though. The strategy is we need a funnel that gets more SQL. So what we did is we created a top of the funnel campaign using customer stories that actually ended up generating like a 5x return on ad spend by using those at the top, where we ended up, and I'm actually planning a whole nother breakdown to share with our own customers. Like, hey, these are ways to use these same interviews with your customers in new ways. Is you start with the problem statement at the beginning that leads them to, then they can see how it's solved. But it comes back to, again, context and focusing on your customer. But that where I was really excited about to see, okay, we had a problem, we solved it using the tool of video, but the strategy wasn't, hey, let's just do more video and throw it on LinkedIn.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love how you broke that down into its, into its respective parts, because that's, I think, something that people need to hear, right? Like, where does this fit in terms of the overall, let's call it the puzzle, right? What part of the puzzle is this, right? How do you make this part of this unified whole somehow, right?
Yes.
Fantastic. All right. Oh, you're going to have a field day with this question. Oh boy. Talk to us about some of your top video do's and don'ts. Off you go.
Yes, I could have a lot. Of these. I'll do two do's and two don'ts. We'll start there. We might go further. Two do's. If you're doing video for top of the funnel, make sure you have a hook. Make sure you have a hook, and that usually is within the first 3 to 5 seconds. If you're particularly using YouTube, people have the ability to skip. So that's a natural, if you're going to need to capture them. But even on LinkedIn, if you're doing social content or other types of ads and you're just trying to capture their attention, it usually isn't about you, your company, or anything. Sometimes, because it's a visual medium, you might do something funny or visually interesting or stimulating or posing an interesting question to capture their attention. And so make sure you do that. Another do, which is something we already talked about, is making it personal, keep making it authentic. And in the B2B world, it's still so lacking. And it's crazy to me how often that we just fall into the trap, myself included, of we have to be on brand. We have to sound very professional and all perfect. And granted, you depending on the size of your organization, there may be a lot of rules that you have to follow. But if you can just push that barrier as far as you can go to make it more personable and more authentic, then it's going to help you so much. All right, 2 don'ts. I'll give you some 2 don'ts. Still kind of connected, but don't make it about you. Focus on the customer. A lot of videos I still see is all about how great we are, how great we can solve your problems, how great we are. We won this award, and we got funding. We did this, we did that. It's like, wonderful, good for you. Don't care. Your employees are liking your video, but is anyone else? Focus on the customer, focus on their problem. That's a way better attitude. Another thing to not do, don't focus on perfection. Don't focus on perfection. Focus on A/B testing. I'm a huge fan, and I've been investing a lot in LinkedIn advertising in this past 12 months now. And if you wait for the absolute perfect video and you finally get it out there, you might find it flops. It doesn't work. And I've gone through a lot of flops, and I've experienced like, gosh, that was I thought it was great, and it did not perform. Focus more on A/B testing, creating multiple versions, iterating faster, just like you would a text campaign. Think the same way in video. You might just have to change your strategy to maybe reduce the quality. I don't want to say reduce the quality. Simplify. There we go. Simplify it so you still have quality, but you can do multiple iterations and versions with the same campaign.
Some really great points, and I love that last bit about not making it perfect, because far too often, even with some of the projects I was involved with in the past, right? Many of them were suffering from it's actually not a rare disease. It's a very common disease called opinionitis, right? and analysis paralysis, right? Mm-hmm. It's a lot of this, and I'm sure you tend to agree. It's a lot of this inside out approach versus let's look at this from the lens of a customer or a prospect, and how would they be viewing this video versus, well, let's just make sure that we get internal buy-in from everybody across 7 layers, right? Mm-hmm. And then once everybody has their piece or gives their feedback and gives their opinion and adds in their tweak, because everybody then becomes the creative director, and then once that's done, then launch it. And that's clearly an approach that, as you rightly said, is probably more often than not will not succeed, right?
Analysis paralysis or opinionitis. You end up creating a video agglomerate of what everyone thinks internally the video should be, but who actually is caring about what the customer they might not care what your team thinks.
Exactly.
Or cares.
Exactly. Yeah. No, fantastic. I had 2 follow-up questions for you. So one is, you talked about having a hook, so having some kind of call to action. So I'm going to dig a little bit further here, and in your opinion, when it comes to video, what would you say is not a great call to action?
Well, before I dive too deep into that, when I talk about a hook, I don't necessarily don't mean call to action of hey, go do this. Now, you do need a call to action in all your videos. Sure. When I often talk about a hook at the beginning, it's how do you grab their attention to keep listening? And when it comes to, okay, what is a good hook there? There's 2 sides to look at. One would be content. What are you saying and what are you visually stating? Because in social media, headlines are important. The other side is, what are you doing visually? For instance, we got several campaigns that we were testing and A/B testing ourselves. At the beginning, we'd have our own team members on camera, and we'd have some cash going like this, or up and putting your hands you could be wasting a lot of money right now. And it's that visual whoa, what? I've seen other people wave at the camera. It's visually cueing them. Hey, I got something, or you hold something in your hand, or you've got a whiteboard and you've got a word on it and you circle it. It's hey, is this what your face? It's some sort of visual cue that's oh, oh, what? It takes you a moment to have to think about it. And well, more than a minute. It probably could take you a little while to figure out what visually could you do that ties to the message, because it has to obviously tie to it. And then the second piece I've also seen folks do is tell, and this is on YouTube ads, who it's not for, or either who it is for or who it isn't for. So like if you don't care about increasing your revenue, or if you don't care as the negatives, then you can skip. Don't listen to this video. And people are like, all right, I see what you're doing, but all right, let's see what you have to say. So it's finding some sort of either pushback or pull in or visual cue to just grab like what's going on here, and can work.
Okay, no, that's definitely fair enough. That's fair enough. Then there was that second piece I wanted to go back to. You talked about quality, right? So let's all appreciate that not everybody, the vast majority out there, I'm going to say, are not going to have the budget to have this like, Hollywood style production, right? But just, okay, in the interest of time, maybe like the top two things that you say, that absolutely has to be there in order for you to produce a quality video. And I'm not necessarily just talking about the equipment, mind you, because that's only part of it, right? Like the technology, the software, and whatnot.
Yeah, I can easily go on a couple angles here. I mean, the first thing always pops in my head as I started 13 years ago in video, of like, good sound matters the most. If they can't hear you legibly and understand what you're saying, then the rest of it is mute. No pun intended, mute. But and then the second would be lighting. I mean, lighting is so powerful. If it's either visually pleasing or you look like you're in the witness protection program. I mean, you don't have to have the best camera at all, but if you can hear what they're saying and you can see them clearly, natural light, big windows, they're great. So that's like on the actual production side. Is that kind of where you were thinking when you were asking that question?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love how you brought up the part about good sound, right? Because this is something that another guest on the show talked about at length, right? Most people generally these days, in terms of like attention span and what they like to look at and the way they consume content online, they might have a certain degree of forgiveness for the visual aspect, but if your sound's not good, then they'll zone out. That said, and you might know where I'm going with this, a lot of people also tend to view videos on handheld devices and mobiles. It's not all on desktop, right? So sound might be an issue because some of these browsers will switch your sound off, right? So
it is, yeah, that's true.
You address that with subtitles, or what do you do there?
Subtitles are your friend.
Yes.
It is a whole new craze that in videos where you probably wouldn't even need subtitles anymore, you are adding them, and it can bypass the sound issue. A lot of times I'm thinking of a little bit longer form content, or where you're trying to communicate a story and somebody's wanting to click and hear, then sound matters. If it's shorter form, then most people don't click the sound, and then they're reading it. And then it comes the importance of, you better have closed captioning on it. If you want to both capture their attention as well as sustain it through the rest of the video, so that they'll keep reading along with it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All right, Alexander, this is the part of the conversation where we talk about actionable tips. I mean, you've given us quite a number of actionable tips already, but okay, let me just set this up. Let's appreciate that you can't do all of this stuff like overnight. I mean, Rome wasn't built in a day, right? But what are some things that B2B marketers and their sales counterparts can do right now to leverage videos, right? To use it to their advantage, and also to implement those successful initiatives that they might have. So let's start by saying, what are some low-hanging fruit? What do you think that they should focus on? Off you go.
Two things, low-hanging fruit. One is, look at the existing content you already have and see how you can remix it. Usually there's already interviews and content and pieces that you can cut down and reuse as social clips or as sales follow-ups. Hey, check out this clip. As we talked about earlier, 70% goes unused. Take some time, get an intern or somebody to go and give some context and review, and pull out new clips. The second, though, low-hanging fruit for videos you already have. I did some tests myself, A/B tests, to find out in a funnel, I put a video on a landing page and just people weren't clicking on it. And I was like, why aren't they engaging with it? It's great. One, spend some time on a really great thumbnail. So that's an option. A lot of people kind of bypass it. We made the video, we put it up, but the thumbnail, they just use whatever content is already there. Spend some time, hire a good designer, or this is what we ended up doing, is use a good video hosting platform that will autoplay with the closed captioning. We've already proven it in timelines on social media feeds. People are scrolling, it autoplays in most places, but without sound, but with the closed captioning. And it's the same thing when someone lands to a landing page, you can have it autoplay with closed captioning. And I have seen, I've checked the stats between the two, and dramatic then increase on the engagement, people just sticking around because it's already already playing. You remove the barrier of having to click play, and you increase the percentage also of people that will click the button to then hear it and listen more. It's just like effortless because it just goes, but it's not obtrusive because there's no sound yet. And most browsers support autoplay if the sound is disabled. If you enable the sound for autoplay, then most browsers will just pause the whole thing and it won't work. So that's a great hack that you could start using for great engagement on your existing video content.
And let me tell you, man, we love hacks on this show. So, but what you were referring to, I noticed that this might have been a couple of months ago, but I think YouTube has added that feature where you just mouse over the thumbnail of said video and it starts to play. Right?
Yes.
It'll pop out a little bit, like it's almost like its own separate window, kind of, and it just pops out and starts playing. Right?
It's everywhere. Even Netflix, you're scrolling through and it starts autoplay. It's kind of annoying as consumers. Something like, I just don't want it to play, but it's the sound. The sound is the annoying part. If you don't do the sound, then it's not as annoying, and you're like, oh, okay. Get you intrigued.
Exactly. All right. My next question is one of those like love it or hate it, right? Like metrics. Right?
Metrics.
You're putting all this great stuff out there, great videos, fantastic content, and then you have to compile this report as a B2B marketer or even as a salesperson at the end of the month, and you have to show that to somebody and say, okay, well, this is what we did. So how do you prove that these initiatives that you rolled out are working? What should people be looking at? What should they be paying attention to?
Three things. The most obvious one I think people come to is how many people play a video. But kind of connected, I look at it as watch time. I use Wistia. That's the video hosting platform I really like, that you can track watch time and engagement and how it drops off, and based on per IP address, a lot of cool things. But almost every video platform will have some sort of ability to check watch time. And that'll help you gauge the content itself of people. Do they like it and how they're doing it? If they click on to play it or not, that's a big one, because that'll tell you, is their thumbnail working? If you're using not the autoplay. If the autoplay works, then you can pay attention to see how long they watch. Another one would be just time on page connected to that. Video versus no video. And there are a lot of stats to prove that when you add a video to a page, you increase watch time, time on page dramatically, because you have that more visual engagement content that people can engage with. The last one I look at is not always directly tied to the video, but the video plays a role, is your conversion rate, your click-through rate to your next major action item that you want them to do on a page before and after. Because most video platforms, you don't put a link in the video. There are some newer technologies, but people are usually browsing the rest of the page. But check, that's a stat to pay attention to, is your click-through rate when you add a video to the mix, because the whole point of adding video is it increases the conversions. I am a big proponent and believer that video will increase that final conversion, which is the goal of all of our marketing and sales efforts. So those would be my top stats to check metrics.
Yeah, no, those are definitely great points there, and especially like click-through rate and also watch time. I mean, like, I think if I were to apply that to the world of podcasting, it would almost be like you're looking at the download rates or the number of downloads and subscriptions, but you're not necessarily taking them very seriously. Let's put it that way. What you are looking at, back to the point that you brought up, is you're looking at the completion rate. right? So similar to a video, how much time are these people investing, or how much of the episode or how much of the video did they actually watch before they said, okay, I'm done, right?
My cautionary note to that one, because I love and I'm always curious about watch time, is someone doesn't have to complete a video to still make a conversion.
Right.
So the ultimate metric is conversion. And some people don't need to watch the entire video to be convinced that I need whatever you have. So don't get afraid if people aren't completing your videos. I actually have a lot of people that like get, halfway through, like, oh yeah, no, I got it. I get it. I'm excited. They don't need to watch the rest. So that would be just my only cautionary point. You don't, that isn't the ultimate metric to track watch time.
Yeah. No, that's a really great point that you brought up, because I believe that too. It's like, you don't have to always have a necessarily 100% completion rate, right?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. Wow. I'm getting excited about this next question, because you brought up a few of them already, but like, what is Alexander Ferguson's go-to tech stack for videos? All right. Pay attention, folks.
Okay. There's a lot to look at here, both from creation of the video, after it's created, how do you put it together, and then how do you post it and share it. I'll start with the very end of sharing it. Wistia and Vimeo are my two favorite video hosting platforms. Wistia mostly for the statistics and the final like marketing piece. Vimeo for more of an internal review, and sometimes in certain places for sharing with customers. Another big tool I love is Otter. Everyone usually, I think at this point, has a transcription tool they like. Otter.ai, though, when I have lots of interviews, a lot of content that I need to pull out more video, I'll get that transcribed. There's some other good tools, but Otter's one I've been using. When it comes to video creation, we have a team of video editors, so it may or may not be relevant for you. We love Final Cut. That's what happens to be way on. But a fun tool that we're into is enhancing videos that if it's very low quality, like it was recorded poorly and low light or it's grainy, we use a tool called Topaz AI that enhances it. There's a web version of another company, similar thing, is called neural.love that enhances the video. There's also a great website, I think it's called Background Remover. So if you need to remove a background, it can like get you a nice clear background, put something behind it. Headliner.app is a cool one that will put a thing on the top if you want to add closed captioning. Clipchamp is another website that can help easily create those final social media versions of content. And one last one fun when you're less on the video is Quillbot. Quill bot. It's if you need to rephrase or rewrite something in another place, whether it's your own script writing or other stuff, I find that a very helpful tool when you need to rewrite the same words in a new way.
Quillbot. I love that name, because it's like quill. It's like, okay, Shakespeare, right? Like, it's like quill and ink.
Yes.
Well, that was a great list, and I have to say that Otter and I have a great understanding, right? Like,
it's fantastic.
We definitely use Otter and also Headliner, because we put out these video snippets for the podcast interview, and that's such a great tool to use. Man, Alexander, we could have gone on for another 5 or 6 hours here, man. This is such a great conversation, but thank you so much for coming on and sharing your expertise and experience with the listeners. So for all of you listening out there, listen back to this interview and take notes, and then go out there and make these amazing videos that you can then implement in your B2B marketing and sales initiatives. But please, quick intro to yourself and how folks out there can get in touch with you, especially when it comes to video.
You got it. So I'm Alexander with TeraLeap. I've been 13 years in the video industry. I've actually co-founded 3 brands, probably served over 500 organizations at this point, thousands of videos, made plenty of ones that did not work. That I'm like, why did you, customer, decide to make a video like this? And now kind of where I am, I'm on a mission for people to realize that customer videos are one of the best marketing content you can create, probably way better than any other video ideas you have. And we exist at TeraLeap.io, TeraLeap 1R, that we actually own the domain for both ours. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I am there all the time, messaging and creating new content. I'm planning on sharing a lot of stories of how I'm using our own customer videos in our marketing efforts, running campaigns, how I'm running on LinkedIn. We also have a great report for those that want it on how do you get customers to say yes to doing a testimonial video. We've got actually wrote a whole bunch of email templates of like, how do you message them and explain to them, this is why I need it, and how do you get the right time, the right person, the right incentive. So we got a great guide to that. I'll send you the link, Christian, so maybe you can put in the show notes. People can take a look at it.
Fantastic. I will be sure to have a look at that one, because we do not have video testimonials, for either our show. I know. I'm bowing my head in shame. I know. But Alexander,
gotta make it happen.
Thank you so much for coming on, and take care, stay safe, and talk to you soon.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye for now.